Stirling Cooper, welcome to the Man of War podcast, man. It is an honor to have you on. I've been trying to get you on for some time, and we're going to have a fun conversation for sure.
Definitely. Thank you for having me, man. Pleasure.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So listen, I see that, you are out there. I see a lot of reels, a lot of videos. And I love the fact that you're a man who speaks from the heart, that you don't bullshit around, that you're pretty much straightforward. And that's exactly what I'm looking to have good dialogue here, because we need that. We need, solid men out there who are speaking the truth. So before we get started, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the mic here, just a couple minutes, briefly introduce who you are a little bit. So for some of our listeners that may not know who you are, we'll get a glimpse into who Stirling Cooper is.
Right. Well, these days I am a sex coach for men, primarily. That's what I do. I try to focus on fixing bedroom issues for dudes, be that premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, erectile dysfunction. And I also try to help them be the best, most masculine lovers they can be for their wives and their girlfriends. But how I'm even able to sort of teach that is a bit of a weirder story. I used to be in the adult entertainment industry. I used to be a performer. Not necessarily proud of that background. However, you could say I'm retired and repenting is probably the way I like to phrase it these days, because I'm trying to do my part to kind of undo a lot of the damage that I know that industry causes to dudes.
Sure.
So that's a big kind of emphasis behind a lot of what I do. Yeah.
Awesome. And what made you kind of step up and start, talking about these, and I want to say these things really that a lot of men just shy away from talking about, but you went out there, you just opened up a can of worms, and you're like out there speaking the truth. What made you step up to the forefront?
Yeah, I mean, guys don't like talking about, their dick not working, for example, to their mates. It's not a conversation a guy will ever really have. So kind of, I always kind of looked at my role was like, if I can kind of be that surrogate big brother that they never had, because it was like the kind of big brother that I didn't really have growing up, who I could be like, yo man, like what does a girl mean when she says this? What does that mean when a girl does that? And it's trying to just fill that little hole that's needed for guys to just like ask an honest question without anyone sort of judging them for it, and without anyone like taking the mickey out of them for asking it in the first place, or for having a problem in the first place. I saw a lot of guys initially would reach out to me asking me, hey, I'm having a problem with this, I'm having a problem with that, and I just started to see that more and more and more and more.
Awesome.
And the more I learned about the average man and the average man's problems and what the root causes of those problems, it took me down this rabbit hole of, man, there's a lot of things going wrong right now that we need to be paying attention to and fixing, like, societally as men.
For sure. Now I've seen that you hang out with Andrew Tate from time to time, and you've seen him really, obviously, take off, and he's a guy that's speaking from the heart, and a lot of people don't like what he has to say, but I would say the majority are getting it, and I think he's making a great impact, especially in younger men out there, without a doubt. So how did you get to meet Andrew?
I met Andrew and Tristan through Twitter, of all things, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, X now, but previously Twitter.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we just started chit-chatting back and forth on that, and then I actually met up with them in Vegas back in 2021. We hit it off, got along, hung out with them a bunch more times over the next couple of years, and yeah, we developed a friendship from there. But I really resonated a lot with what those guys were pushing, what those guys were saying, and the kind of core emphasis they put on brotherhood and male accountability, and like having your band of brothers that you can depend upon and rely on, and that have a similar set of values to you. And once I started embracing that, man, it made me realize how much I was missing that in my life up to that point.
Amazing. And we're going to talk about that, because that's very powerful right there. Brotherhood and having that band of brothers, because that's exactly what we do here. I mean, we've been doing this for almost 6 years now. We have a huge brotherhood of men who are really empowering and bringing forth the best in themselves and best in other brothers. So I love that, man. When you talk about bands of brothers, that's almost non-existent in this world nowadays. But we'll get to that in a little bit. All right, so I'm going to throw some questions at you. Do you believe in monogamy?
Ooh, that's a good one. I believe it. I believe that it is the best structure for a healthy society. Yes. Do I personally struggle with it? Yes, as well. So I'm just being completely honest. Like I personally have struggled to be in like strictly monogamous relationships for extended periods of time without.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe it's self sabotage. Maybe it's me not taming my sex drive, so to speak. But yeah, it's but that's me understanding my own faults and flaws. If I was to recommend it to people, I would recommend it to people, to be honest, because it's what built Western society. Like healthy families, monogamous, loving relationships, building healthy kids is like the backbone of Western culture. So to say to you couldn't really make the argument that it isn't, a
Sure.
positive thing for society.
Have you been in long-term relationships, engaged, maybe even married? Mm-hmm.
Not married, but long term, long
Mm-hmm.
term relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Long like 4 year girlfriends, things like that. So I've done it. I've definitely done it. But it's yeah. To be
Do
fair, now I am currently looking for like a woman that I would wife up and settle down, have start a family with. That's my right now. I'm literally just looking to start a family because I think that's the
all
next
right.
kind of big
I
big
got you.
goal I want to accomplish. Yeah.
I got you. So, from a perspective, look, bottom line is that men are going to be hunters. That's in our DNA. Okay. However, I think that when you find that right person, um, uh, and it's hard because a lot of guys, unfortunately, the right person, they think that they're with the right person, but in my opinion, if you're out there and you're constantly cheating, and you can't control yourself, you don't have the discipline to control yourself, you may not be with the right person or a person that really brings forth that that sense of monogamy in you. Now, I'm going to ask you this question, and this is, do you think that maybe because you're saying that you've struggled with it, do you think that maybe it's been because you haven't been in this type of relationship where it was the right fit with the right synergy? And in the end, the question is, do you think that a man could be really a faithful man with one woman for the rest of his life? So kind of like
Mm.
a divided question.
Yeah, I think to answer the second part first, I think absolutely men can, but I do think they have to kind of conquer the beast within them
Mm-hmm.
because I know I have a couple of friends who've gone through that journey very recently. They're married, they're monogamous, they're happy, they're super happy with their families, but they had to conquer that kind of more animalistic side of them that would want to stray, that would want them to step out of that relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that's the sacrifice that I think the man makes to commit to that relationship. Is he says, okay, I'm gonna forego this kind of base desire in me and
Sure.
keep it exclusive to you as my wife. Um, what was the first half of that question again? I already
Well,
forgot the
the
second.
first one was maybe your relationships in the past, because you said you struggled with
Right.
monogamy. Do you think that
Yeah.
they were, maybe you were missing something? Do you think that maybe you would have been capable of being strong in that relationship and not struggle as much?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think that a large part of the reason I would have strayed out of those relationships is I didn't have an end goal in mind. It was just dating for dating's sake. Whereas now I date with intention and with purpose, and it's
Ooh, I like
I
that.
don't I don't want to date a woman unless I can see us ending up with kids and starting a family. I
Hmm.
don't want to engage in it. So I think that was me dating as like a younger man. It was very much aimless,
Got it.
which I think a lot of people could probably relate to. Uh, but once you have a clear intention of what you are looking for and what you want out of a relationship, it can make that battle a little bit easier, I think.
Very good. You want to have kids?
Absolutely. I want to have a lot of kids. A lot of
There
kids.
you go. Okay,
Yeah.
very good. So, you know, it's what I've seen in my past, and I've coached thousands, I don't even know how many thousands of men over the last decade. And it's something that is pretty powerful. And I think that, you made a great point there. You have to tame the beast within. And it also goes down, I believe, to stoicism and being a self-disciplined man, and a guy that has, his shit together mentally, physically. Once you start tying that in, I think that you can become stronger and really sit on a mission and focus on a mission, like you are right now. You're like right now, you're not bullshitting around. You're straightforward. If you're going to move into a relationship, you are seeking. You have a vision right now, which is really cool to see, especially. And I want to go back into your younger days. You were an adult porn star, and you were adult film, and you say you kind of, it's not that you regret it, but maybe it's not that the highlight of you don't want to put that as a highlight of your life. But my question,
I don't want anyone to think that that's something they should pursue.
got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So do you think that changed you in a way, the way you see women, the way that you kind of conduct yourself through life? I mean, I got to believe that somehow there's something there that you probably, I'm going to guess that you see things a little bit different than most men do, that don't get the chance to, to bang, 200-300 women and sets. And
yeah, it you know what it does is it didn't make me jaded or bitter or anything like that.
Mhm.
What it did do though is it took the power of sex away from women, right? Because yeah, I've had quite a numerous amount of random sexual encounters with all different types of women, right? So that means that no woman I interact with on a daily basis now has that sexual power over me, because there's nothing that it's not as, not to say that it's taken away the fun of sex and the magic of sex. I still enjoy it, and I still enjoy connection with a partner, but it's not something a woman can sort of dangle in front of me now, and tempt me with in any way. But ironically, it's given me more like control in that regard. It's this weird paradoxical situation, I suppose. And I kind of try to teach that a little bit when I talk to guys. It's like, because if you can approach, as a practical example, if you can approach in a relationship, if you can approach sex as from the mental framework of it being a reward for your woman rather than sex being a reward for you, the man, well, that flips the power dynamic on its head, which often gets men in trouble, which often causes men to make dumb decisions or to supplicate themselves and let themselves get, emasculated, just to try and get some sexual gratification and sexual satisfaction. But if they can think of the dynamic the other way around, it can help to fix a lot of those problems.
Very interesting. It's a different angle to take. Women have lost a lot of their feminine appeal, I think, in my humble opinion, over the last probably decade. You see women start being more boy-like, more man-like. They want to do everything a man, does. They want to be the boss. They want to be the leaders. They want to be, kind of, what's your opinion on that? I mean, for me personally, I think that there's something beautiful. The feminine energy is beautiful. It's very different than masculine energy. But when women try to step into that masculine energy, there's a big, big problem. Well, what are your thoughts?
I would agree with your diagnosis. I think the solution to it, however, is it comes back on men, because women will follow our lead. Women have only been led astray like this because men kind of allowed it and encouraged it, and in a lot of ways, like, kind of pushed it in that direction. like as a society, men saying like, you go girl, like, go chase a career for 40 years, delay motherhood until your mid-30s when you have a geriatric pregnancy. Like, we've we've
Yeah.
proactively, in a way, encouraged this. But now we're in the last 3-4 years, we've seen like a kind of rebound effect from that, where there's lots of men and women talking about this problem of men not being masculine and women not being feminine, and in their natural polarities. And so to get back to normality, men really have to. I don't want to use the word hold women accountable, but men need to set their standards and kind of draw a line in the sand. And you would be surprised, like the number of women I've been on a date with who were feminists at the start of the date, and at the end of the date they're not really feminists anymore. It's if As long as a man is attractive enough to her and draws a line in the sand and is clear about his boundaries and what he values, if she starts to fall for that man, well, she will follow his lead and she will fall back in her natural feminine. Women want to be with a man they can look up to and they can respect and they can follow his lead. So I think collectively as men, we have to be it's only going to fix it if we do it. We can't sit around and expect women to, get back into line and to get back in the kitchen or whatever,
Sure.
right?
Sure,
as a
sure.
bit of a trope, right?
Sure.
We have to be the ones to be proactive about it first, and it's not done in a way by trying to force a particular behavior on women. It's just, it starts in the kinds of women you let into your own personal life. And it's like, okay, well, I just will not interact with women who are masculine like this.
Sure.
I'm personally only going to allow women who are feminine into my life and to take up my time and my energy. So, and the more you do that, the less you see of these sort of more hyper masculine women.
Very good point. So let's kind of uncork that just a little bit more. You talked about, the man pretty much being manly and, immediately setting the boundaries of what he likes and what he doesn't like, and so on, kind of setting that framework. Do you think that a lot of men are weak out there, that immediately they get dictated by women? And going back to one of the things that you said earlier with it, which I think is amazing and spot on. I haven't heard that many men say that, and I've been saying that for a little bit, and it's about that a lot of the reasons why women now are leading in the households is because men were weak and couldn't lead themselves out of an open fucking door. That's problematic. They, all of a sudden it's like the woman's waiting for the man to lead, and he doesn't. He's just so weak and rather just let her lead. So kind of circling back to this particular situation, the confidence that a man exudes when he is, saying exactly what you're saying. Hey, I'm going to draw my boundaries. I'm going to get around women that are feminine. I mean, how does a man really start building that? Say a man comes from, weakness, but he wants to start getting this confidence back. Give me an idea of maybe what you would tell a man.
Right. Well, confidence is derived from competence. So you need to, if you want to truly be a confident man in anything, well, you need a degree of competency in things. You need to have had experience challenging yourself. You need to have experience getting put back on your ass every now and then and getting up again. You have to have overcome challenges and obstacles in your life. That's why men typically become more attractive to women as they get older, because they just become more competent and thus more confident, and they are able to kind of enforce their own boundaries because they have the experience in the past of saying, you know what, this ain't as big of a deal as I think as I might make it out to be. Like, I can overcome this challenge. I can overcome that challenge. I can overcome that challenge. It's not a big deal. And so, yeah, a good starting point for any man who is lacking confidence or wants to start building on himself like this is put yourself in uncomfortable situations. That's it. That's the basic golden rule. Like, the more you push yourself out of your comfort zone and try new things, overcome new challenges, learn new skills, whatever it is, you're going to start building on that foundation of confidence. Because confidence isn't this just magical, ethereal thing that you get as a result of doing one thing. It's a compounding effect. It's like a snowball. So you've got to build on it like that. And I think a lot, you kind of touched on this earlier, a lot of men are lacking in that department because they haven't really done much with their life. We unfortunately the most beautiful thing and simultaneously the worst thing about American culture in particular. I've lived in America for the last 5 years. American culture in particular is it's the most comfortable culture on the planet that there has ever been. It is the most it's the best part about it, the worst part about it. So with all those comforts of the society, yeah, that's great and all, but men no longer have to struggle and strive to kind of make their way. It's easier to just coast by. It's easier to just stay in your comfort zone and get on with life, get by. And you wake up 10, 15, 20 years later and you're like, well, I've got nothing to show for my life. And I don't feel special. I don't feel competent. I don't feel worthy of a woman's affection. I don't feel worthy of wealth. And wonder why, because you've never pushed yourself in any way.
Awesome. Love that. Love that. Let's jump right into this. Do you think that there's a lot of young men out there that are just so dialed into porn, dialed into masturbation, walking around life kind of aimlessly, and really, in my opinion, cheating growth, cheating an opportunity to be better, but they just simplify it. Go watch porn, and you came from that world, so you can give me an idea of what your thoughts are. But and then just go whack off and make it a day. And really, their attraction and that sense of heightened testosterone and that aggressive sense. That's why you see men walking around so weak. They're just weak. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's sedation, right? Pornography is one of a dozen sedation tools that are used on young men today. And again, for like anyone who's unfamiliar with my background, full disclosure, I worked in that industry, so I contributed to that problem, and I'll outright say that. And again, it's part of why I every time the topic comes up, I encourage every guy to stop watching that shit. You should not stop. Cut out masturbation, cut out pornography usage. Your life will be better for it. There is zero downside to cutting those things out of your life. Zero downsides to cutting them out. Right? It's only going to be positive. So that's the first thing. I mean, for even more evidence of that, the dudes that are in the industry who are on camera working, they don't have time to like jerk off and watch porn because they've got to be firing on all cylinders to go make it in the first place. So that kind of gives you an idea. But that's just one of many sedation tools that men have. Alcohol's another one. Smoking's another one. Netflix is another one. Just sitting around on the couch watching TV, like TikTok, and mindlessly, endlessly scrolling on this thing.
Sure.
That's another one. It all taps into the same thing, which is just to sedate the masculine urge to conquer life. If you can, watch some silly cat videos on TikTok and feel a little bit of dopamine, that's far quicker and easier than it is to go out and hike up a mountain for 10 hours and feel an equivalent like sense of accomplishment, like biochemically at least. And you've got to learn to delay gratification again. If you're going to because all these, I fundamentally think all these things, all these sedation tools are very much interconnected. And if you want to quit one, the more of the other ones you start to wean off of, you'll find it easier. So if a guy is having trouble quitting porn, the first thing I actually say to him is, okay, try cutting out alcohol as well. Try cutting out sugary foods. It's another one I didn't mention. Like really like high carbohydrate foods that just pump our blood sugar up and down, right? Try cutting out and needlessly scrolling on TikTok. If you cut all these other things out, which are causing a similar effect to you, you might find that it's actually even easier then to quit cold turkey on the porn stuff.
That's interesting. So you're saying kind of add multiple things with it and kind of go all as one. That's cool. I like that. And I want to ask you this because I kind of want to tie everything together here. Do you think that a man that is out there dating and having sex on a continuous basis and just, one chick after another, do you think that can get boring to a level where you're just like, fuck, man, I mean, it's great, but I need to change my life. I need to do something with purpose and meaning, because in my opinion, a man needs purpose. A purpose-driven man is a very high level, high value man. So what are your thoughts on that?
I would agree, yeah, and I would say that I have been there, to be honest. So I've been the guy who's just been, endlessly casually dating again and again and again, and it gets to a point you're like, what am I doing this for? Like, really, what is the point of all this? I'm wasting time. Yeah, it could be channeled into something more productive. It could be channeled into something really fulfilling, meaningful. Not that I don't also do that, to be fair. I dating life is like a sliver of like my weekly schedule, let's say,
Sure.
and energy. But if a guy dedicated his entire life to just that thing, well, then he's definitely going to be lacking in all other areas of his life, because it's not unless he's doing it, like we said before, with an intention and a purpose of, okay, find a wife, find a woman you can have a family with. Without the intention behind it, there's really no fulfillment to it. There's no purpose behind it. Yeah, so I would just have to agree with you, because I've been that exact example
Sure,
of
sure.
someone who's gone through that.
Without a doubt. Now, with that said, um, dominance in the bedroom, do you think that a man could really build a stronger relationship with a woman for the long term, being a master in the bedroom? Do you think a woman really, or do you think that two people can grow together? In my opinion, and I'm going to throw it out there, I think that if you are knowledgeable and you're a guy that really is in tune with the woman and in tune with yourself, and you guys could really build something special together, a relationship can grow. Now, a guy that comes into the bedroom and doesn't know anything, and it's just one of those guys that wants to, bend the chick over and get off, and that's it. 1, 2, 3, quickie. I don't know if it's going to have the same type of synergy and bond at that moment. And really, you could kill a relationship, in my opinion, like that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like to use the bedroom dynamic as a microcosm of the relationship outside the bedroom, because, and this is not just me hypothetically saying this. This is literally verbatim the feedback I've gotten from clients of mine who've been
Right.
in 20+ year marriages, who've taken some of my advice. The guys started to become, let's say, more dominant in the bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
and magically, his wife, who was a Karen before, who was nagging him to take the trash out, well, now she's cooking dinner and she's cleaning the dishes again.
Oh, yes.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
It's I've
Yeah.
seen this happen
Mm-hmm.
multiple times now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just confirmation of that the dynamic in the bedroom, the masculine and feminine polarity in the bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
is important, because it's kind of the one place we're allowed to be men again. Like, in the world, we're still allowed to be men in the bedroom,
Gotcha.
and
Yeah.
women love the fact when women love it when a guy is that kind of strong, masculine, passionate, dominant lover. It's literally the thing that they write fantasy novels about, which
Yeah.
are all-time bestsellers. So when you can embrace that as a guy, and I think a lot of guys are too shy and timid.
Mm-hmm.
They've been told their whole like adult life, oh, women are sugar and spice and everything nice. They're fragile, little creatures, or they're worried about Me Too stuff. So they get afraid of like grabbing themselves by the balls and being a man in the bedroom. But they would be shocked to see how well their wife or their girlfriend would respond to that, because that is just going to put her right into her feminine energy, and that's exactly what she wants to be. She wants to be in that space so she can feel safe, because you're the one leading, you're the one taking responsibility, you're the one with the authority. That's where she wants you to be. She wants to be able to look up to her man and respect him like that. And yeah, I get this. we're talking about the inside the bedroom and outside the bedroom at the same time here. But I fundamentally, I'm really passionate about that. And women have confirmed this to me through through DMs and testimonials and things like that as well. So I know I'm speaking the truth, despite the fact if I had a blue-haired feminist sitting across from me right now, they'd be arguing with me about it. But I just know that this is correct because I've seen it work again and again and again.
Got it. So let me ask you, and this is, and I've talked about this a few times, but a lot of people don't quite understand it, especially guys that are weak-minded men. Women like status in a man. They like to see their man be respected by other men. And it doesn't compute, in a lot of especially the younger generation, they're not really getting it. They're not understanding what that means. So what are your thoughts on status and a man really earning respect from others? And based on your clientele and the people that you interact with, do you think that women actually, it arouses them to see their man, lead from the front like that?
100%. In fact, I went on a date with a young lady a couple of weeks ago now, and as we were sitting there at dinner, we were having a couple of drinks casually, and I had to do a little bit of work on my phone, and I wasn't even thinking about this, but I was just sitting there leaving some voice notes, giving some guys some direction on things. And then I put the phone back down and go back to talking with her, and she stopped me and she said, "No, that is so hot." And I'm like, "What?" She said, "You like being a boss, you like telling your employees what to do, like that's the stuff that I fantasize about." And I'd never heard a woman verbatim say it like that until a couple of weeks ago. But it's true. Like you will, and I know that actually. Now that I think about it, I've had a friend's wife. I've heard her say the exact same thing about him doing that when he's not in the room. And so it comes down to her man being respected by others allows her to know that she's picked a man who's of competency and high status and has the potential to get things done. It's part of she knows that she is safe within a tribe structure in a way. When he is respected by other men or has the command of other men, the authority over other men, it means that she's even more safe and even more secure than she would be with just him alone, because she now has the protection of the entire tribe as well.
Yes, powerful, without a doubt. Let's talk about tribe. Let's talk about brotherhood. In our day and age, we see that, men think that they can do things by themselves, that they're just these lonely souls that somehow, what they're doing is, it's okay. It's, they want to separate themselves through time. And if you really look at the warrior cultures of old, there were warrior tribes. There were men pushing each other, holding each other accountable, getting themselves ready for battle. Do you think we're missing that in our day and age, that connection between men?
Well, there aren't really any male-only spaces left anymore. That used to be a really common thing. I can't remember when they did it. They started letting girls into the Boy Scouts some time ago. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
just as simple as that. Like when you were a young boy, like it was good to have like boy-only spaces. There was also the girl where I'm from. We had girl guides. There was girl-only spaces too. Cool. But we had, for some reason, we had to let women into these male-only spaces. Like we couldn't have gentlemen's clubs anymore. And I don't mean strip clubs. I mean actual gentlemen's clubs, like cigar and whiskey lounges and things like that, where we weren't allowed to have men's-only organizations. That's sexist and that's misogynistic now. But men interact very differently when there's no women around. And not in a bad way either. They interact in a far more productive, less distracted way, a far more honest way. They can be a lot more straightforward and critical of each other. Hold each other accountable. Because men are kind of wired to not be that harsh on women. So when you have women in those kind of, a male space, shall we say, the guys aren't going to be anywhere near as straight to the point and critical as they would be if it was only dudes. So Yeah, well, we lost the male only spaces, so that's why we've lost a lot of that connection and brotherhood that we would have otherwise had going through most of our life. I mean, a lot of guys, their fondest memories are going to be from their sports teams in high school or in college. Really, if they think about it, I mean, until very recently, that was very much the case for me. Until a few years ago, when I started to find a real brotherhood of men to conquer the earth with and go on adventures with. Now we've got all these fun, amazing experiences that we've been on together, and it's that brotherhood that combines us. And and it's not blood brotherhood either. It's just a brotherhood of values more than anything else. But yeah, I would encourage any guy who does not have that in his life to find a way, to find some community of other like-minded men, and just keep it as men. And because there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing sexist about that. There's nothing misogynistic about that. Because men are stronger when they have the support of other men around them. And they're together like that. They can be stronger for their wives and their girlfriends and their mothers and their daughters. They can be stronger for them, not in spite of them.
Sure, without a doubt. Now, so let's talk a little bit about, and I know you're not a father, but I want to kind of dive into a little bit of an area where we see a lot of fathers now let their young girls go out there on Instagram and show their ass and shake their tits, and and they're doing it for OnlyFans and things like that. Listen, the reality is, in my world, is it all stems from home, a good portion of that. These women that enter the porn life, and from your experience, since you've been in that world, is it something that was broken at home, or the girl just decided to do it for money? I've been curious really about that, because as a father, I have a 10-year-old daughter. I mean, I could never in my wildest imaginations ever think that my daughter would do something like that. I mean, I completely raised her differently. But what happened with these girls that are doing that out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not 100% consistent. There's obviously a few different examples here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say it comes down to like two very common things more than anything else. It's either, I don't want to say a broken home, but like a weak father figure who wasn't not, because some of them had father figures who were overly authoritarian and disciplining, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's not the discipline, and it's not that sort of stuff. It's more like she didn't respect her father. Like their fathers weren't men that commanded respect from their daughters. They just assumed that they would listen to them,
Got it.
and thus they rebelled out of it. A lot of girls got into porn. If the ones I talked to and found out their stories about, a lot of them got into it as like a rebellion thing, like to get back at the dad, to get back at an ex-boyfriend, to rebel in some way, shape, or form like that. Yeah, obviously money. They think it's a quick buck. It really isn't a quick buck. But it's a monetary incentive is another big part of it, and the fact that there's no stigma really anymore around it. It's like if you look at the average music video today would have been considered softcore pornography in the 1980s.
Very true.
So in a way,
Very true.
like society on all levels has become more and more pornographic across the board. Like look at billboard ads, look at like TV shows, like Game of Thrones, tits and ass everywhere in that thing, right?
Yep,
So
100%.
it's become a lot more like pornographic materials become way more mainstream than it ever was. Into the advent of internet pornography, websites like Pornhub and stuff like that are a massive, massive cause of that, because now it's just everywhere on everyone's phone. Yeah, I think young boys are seeing like their first pornographic image at like the age of 11 or something like that, something like
Crazy.
stupidly young, and
Wow.
it's from someone else at school showing them something on their phone.
Sure.
So it's
Sure.
absurd how mainstream that. Because when I was a kid, man, it was like you had to go to like the the one adult store and get a nudie mag or something, like, or you'd find one in your uncle's stash somewhere. Like, it just wasn't available. You had to show an ID and be an adult to even get access to this kind of stuff. I know I'm kind of getting off your point, but yeah, circle back where it's really about, does that woman respect her father's authority?
Sure.
I think that's what it comes down to. To give a practical example, I've been courting, shall we say, a young lady for the last like 4 months, and it took me almost 3 months to get date number 2. I got date number 1. Took me 3 months to get date number 2, and when I finally got her out on date number 2, I said, "Let me guess, did you have to convince your father to let you out the house?" And she's like, "Yep, he wouldn't let her out the house." And I'm like, "I love your dad already. I can't wait to meet him." Because to me, that was a massive green flag. Well, seeing that, I'm like, so
for sure.
She never left the house without her brother or her father, and like, period. That's it. So like, cool. She's a lovely, lovely woman. She's a lovely woman, and I hope this ends up, turning into something serious. But that's so rare to meet a woman like that, and I think I'm just trying to connect dots here.
No, I see the smile on your face, man, when you're talking. You light up when you talk about her.
This, well, because I'm thinking like this is what I'm gonna do when I have a daughter. All right, great. She doesn't leave the house unless it's me or her brothers.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, she finds a husband through my community of trusted friends and families. Like, that's the blueprint I'm kind of putting together in my head. It looks like it's working. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Do you believe in arranged marriages or anything like that?
It's an interesting question. Well, I mean, statistically, they're more successful, but I don't know if they're more happy. I think I would lean more towards a kind of a hybrid scenario like that, where small local communities where you kind of know people or people's like daughters and sons and stuff.
Totally. Yes.
And you will the parents will kind of push people in a direction towards each other. So I think they're going to naturally end up together like that. And that's how, if I look back on my own family history and the small communities my family came from, that's kind of what happened. Sure. I mean, my weird story, but my granddad literally, at 13 years of age, 8 years of age, rode his horse across the river to see the next door neighbor's baby being born, and that baby ended up becoming his wife. Like,
oh, that's crazy.
20 years later. But that's how that was the small local community, right? So,
wow. No, that's powerful, man. That's great. So, I mean, these are all great points, especially, being a father, you're mentioning here the respect, the woman, the daughter did not respect the father in the sense that she really needed to respect him. It was maybe failure of leadership, maybe conveying the message properly. Those are big things. Those are elements that are missing in our society today in a big way. So with that said, give me 3, before we close this off, give me 3 tips or 3 ideas where a man who is out there in the battlefield of the dating world, trying to meet a woman, someone that is within her feminine energy, what are the 3 things that you think, and we touched on one just to, you mentioned something on the fly there regarding a lot of men don't ever push themselves or are never under any type of stress, and it's just very relaxed type of life. But and I agreed with that, so I want to touch that before we go. I want to make sure that everyone knows 100% that I agree with that 1,000,000%, that men are not pushing themselves to their limits, and they're not just stressing their bodies or their minds. So I want to say that. Circling back to this, I mean, it's tough, men out there, in this dating world. I mean, I've been married for 20 years, so I know nothing about it, but I know I have two sons that are in their 20s. And it's a different beast from what I remember. Everything is internet based. Everything is Snapchat, this, whatever, Tinder, that. What is a man to do? What can he do? Give me 3 things in your top of your head that he can do to really fortify his chances to landing a really good woman.
Cool. I'd say first of all, have a very clear list of like what kind of partner you're looking for. Like get specific, like real as specific as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Like what things do you care about? What values do you care about? Like I'm talking like how old are you? How old does she need to be in relation to you? Where's she from? What language does she speak? I mean, like some of these things might sound obvious, but I think the more specific you can get in terms of the values you and values, character traits that you want in a partner, okay, cool. And saying feminine is good, but it's too vague, I think, for a lot of guys. Like you might say, I'm looking for a woman who enjoys to cook, who enjoys cooking, like she gets joy from it. That's a bit more specific.
Sure.
Cool. So you can, because once you can't hit a target if you don't know what the hell the target even is. Mm-hmm. So you have to have a very specific, bit of criteria in your head for you to start going after it. 2, make yourself a man worthy of that criteria. Because you can LARP all day. you can, the average man could sit there and whine and complain, oh, like, woe is me, I can't find this kind of woman, like all the women aren't feminine enough, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, well, look at yourself in the mirror and honestly judge yourself. Like, I know I've had to do a lot of work on myself in my life to have dating success and to attract a certain type of woman that I'm looking for. I've had to push myself in different ways again and again and again. And that ties back into what we said before about pushing your comfort zone like that. And then the third thing I'd say is fish in the right pond. Because yeah, you could. It's easy to jump on like a dating app like Tinder or something. Mm-hmm. You're probably not going to find the love of your life on Tinder. To be honest, you're probably not.
Sure.
You need to know, like, be a bit analytical about this. If for example, if I was living in America right now, where would I try to? Where are places I would go to find like a wholesome, girl? Probably the Midwest somewhere. Probably not New York, LA, or Miami. I'm probably going to like the Midwest, honestly. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that honest to God, that's what I would do. So fish in a statistically better pond for the kinds of women you're very, very clear about getting with.
Awesome, man. Those are great tips. Well, I got to tell you, man, it's been a great chat with you. And where can people follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram is just my name at Stirling Cooper. Stirling is spelled STIRLING. Yeah, at Stirling Cooper. That's me. You'll find my account there. I'm on YouTube. I give out a bunch of advice on YouTube as well. Tons of like very, very specific videos on any problems that you guys might have in the bedroom, like erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, those kind of things. I also talk about many of the things we talked about today, like relationship dynamics and becoming a more passionate lover and how to channel that and really some practical tools and tips you can use in the bedroom specifically. So tons of free advice there on my channel there. Again, you just type in the name Stirling Cooper and I'll come up first. Or I should at least be coming up first by now. Yeah, and that's awesome. Where you can get more tips from me. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll make sure that we drop that in the show notes. Make sure everybody links up to you on Instagram and on YouTube. Thank you very much for being on, man.
Thank you so
much. Appreciate you.
Pleasure.